This is Batshit Crazy, a podcast dedicated to all things strange and unusual, with your spirit guides Heather and Dylan, who will take you to the other side. Subject matter featured on Batshit Crazy may not be suitable for all listeners. Listener discretion is advised.
You're listening to Batshit Crazy. I'm Heather.
And I'm Dylan.
And we are back with another exciting topic for today, Dylan.
Yes, I found this topic fascinating. I've heard a little bit about it over the years, and I think it's awesome.
We like a good cryptid story, right?
It's true.
What's your favorite cryptid? Like if you had to pick one?
That's tough. You know me, I can never pick my favorite anything. I think the chupacabra is pretty scary. Just if you were out in the desert environment, you know, at night, and then there's those big eyes off in the distance, and it's a chupacabra. That's weird. And I got Bigfoot is fascinating to a degree, right?
Exactly, especially because Bigfoot's spotted in so many areas.
Yeah, and
seems to be a more common cryptid that if you were out and about in the woods, you might have more of a chance of bumping into a Sasquatch.
yeah, and it seems like a lot of cultures have their version of Bigfoot, right?
I think a Yeti is pretty terrifying.
Yeah.
A big snow creature, right? Like the abdominal snowman.
It's the abdomen snowman.
That guy.
That guy, he never wears shirts. He's always showing off. And we're like, it ain't exercise that did that. It's diet that got you those abs, you son of a bitch.
This is probably one of my favorite cryptids that we are going to be covering today.
Well, and I think this slips a lot of people's minds when it comes to the cryptid space.
Perhaps.
I believe it may.
Well, for centuries, mysterious sea serpents and mermaids were believed to be hidden in the world's vast oceans. Merfolk, which would be mermen and mermaids, are supposedly half human, half marine animal. Arabian Nights described mermaids as having moon-shaped faces and hair like a woman's, but with their hands and feet in their bellies, with tails like a fish. That's a creepy description. Hands and feet in the belly.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, very.
The idea of mermaids has existed for thousands of years, dating back to a Babylonian era deity known as Era or Oannes, the fish god.
Yeah, see, that's what I find amazing about a lot of these cryptid stories, that it's not something new. You know, it's not something that's very modern, and it's for hundreds, sometimes even thousands. This sounds like thousands of years. You know, different cultures have these stories of these creatures.
This Babylonian god is usually depicted as a man with a bearded face, body like a man, but from the waist down, he's shaped like a fish. The oldest known tale of merfolk is depicted in Syrian mythology. Other folklore exists from cultures such as ancient Greece and Japan. The god Triton in Greek mythology is the merman messenger of the sea. Candomblé, which is an Afro-Brazilian religion, still worships a mermaid goddess to this day.
Really?
Most people are familiar with the Disney version of The Little Mermaid, which was a fairy tale written by Hans Christian Andersen. Did you know that he wrote the original?
No, I did not.
The Little Mermaid?
I can't believe Disney would take somebody else's intellectual property and do something with it. That's crazy.
Well, some legends in Scotland and Wales suggest that humans married mermaids, which may have been the inspiration for this tale.
Yeah, and so Disney, everything's all bubbly and friendly. You know, no one's questioning Ariel's age or the creepiness of the human there. But yeah, so but that's not always the case with the mermaid legends, right? Or the mer people.
Well, in folklore, however, mermaids are often associated with misfortune and death. It's probably what you're hinting at, Nolan.
Yeah, it definitely is.
They were known to lure sailors off course and sometimes onto rocky shoals where they'd meet certain death. Mermen have also been equally considered the bringers of destruction, from summoning storms to sinking ships.
So yeah, all these legends or stories have to do with something that's not good or
almost like a harbinger of doom.
right, or
if you
even
will.
causing you to. It's almost like the sirens, that call you with their song.
Well, what's interesting to me is we have these depictions of mermaids and folklore as these, like essentially a bad creature, right? Yet today we celebrate mermaids with, they're beautiful. The artwork depicts them like they're these beautiful women with flowing hair. The Starbucks logo is a mermaid.
Yeah, there was actually a story not that long ago. This troupe of performers who do their Little Mermaid swimming deal were commissioned to perform at like some kind of a museum or aquarium or something. But it turns out the guy was filming their dressing room secretly and showing it to other people.
Wow.
Isn't that messed up?
That is not a good story.
But no, it's not. And what made me think of that is how you're saying we have them in this like positive light nowadays. Because of course all the kids are amazed by these women swimming with the mermaid tails on in this huge tank. And I just wonder why when it changed. Because I think even if 100, 200 years ago, I don't think people would have a positive idea of mermaids or mer people.
Well, according to Scottish folklore, the blue men of Minch are said to dwell in the outer Hebrides. They look like ordinary men from the waist up, except for their bluish skin and long gray beards, and of course, the merfolk tail.
So they don't look like ordinary men at all.
Well, Dylan, I don't know what kind of ordinary men you've seen, but I know plenty of guys with blue skin, long gray beards. We live in the mountains after all.
It's true.
Now, Christopher Columbus was one of the persons who reportedly spotted a mermaid, like, I guess, first written account of it. One of the first few people to report it through written account. And though most historians believe it was likely a marine animal like a manatee, we still have that documentation. Famous pirates, such as Blackbeard, marked certain parts of the sea as enchanted. In his logbooks, he even ordered the crews to stay away from those waters because of mermaids and sirens.
Oh, so he's just avoiding it so they don't get wrecked.
A sea captain described his encounter with mermaids in 1614. Captain John Smith of Jamestown saw a mermaid swimming with all possible grace. That's how he described it. He was so taken with the sight of this lovely creature that he began feeling the first twinges of love. So I guess up until this point, he had never had that strong attraction to someone. And he's kind of feeling that for the first time, like a love at first sight type of feeling. Exactly. But then he was very disappointed when he noted she had a fishtail.
It was going so good until I realized that she was half fish. The Tinder date.
By the late 1800s, hucksters like P.T. Barnum were displaying fake mermaids known as Fiji mermaids. A gaff, for those who may or may not be familiar with that term, it's essentially oddities that have been fabricated, forged, they're fakeries.
Yeah, I mean, the best way I think about it in my head is it's taxidermy. It's man-made taxidermy, and they'll take parts from other animals. There's all kinds. But the Fiji mermaid's one of the more popular ones, and then the jackalope is another one that's rather popular, and they're really cool. But people believe they were real back in Barnum's day, and some people would do scams, and create one of these, usually using like part of a monkey and part of a fish, and sell them to people or, charge people to see them was the big business.
Yeah, Barnum would charge, I think it was 25 cents to 50 cents to enter into a tent with these oddities. So this Fiji mermaid, as you mentioned, Dylan, it offered the head of a monkey and like the torso and head, the upper part of a monkey, and the tail from a fish. It was an obvious fake, but intrigued folks at the same time. I mean, people today still want to get their hands on a Fiji mermaid.
Well, I mean, if you think about in this modern day, it's maybe like, wow, there's no way there's a mermaid, or we would see them all the time. But what about before that we traveled the oceans regularly? And then you had some of these captains crossing from Europe, to the Americas and stuff. For some of the first times that humans have been out there. No one's flying from overhead. And the first time, and maybe the mermaids or mer people thrived in the ocean environment before humans got on the oceans, right?
A biologist named Sir Alistair Hardy began studying mermaids and proposed a theory that some anomalies were simply part of human evolution, which could be an explanation for these creatures. He speculated that humans didn't evolve from apes, but rather marine life. And he suggested that humans took to the water, Dylan, to find food instead of land, and this would eventually lead to evolving to live in the waters.
Okay, so we're like Kevin Costner from Waterworld.
But most science does not support this theory with evidence. I've never seen Waterworld. Does he develop gills?
He has gills. That's why he can go way down in the water. That's how he gets all the artifacts and dirt, because dirt's actually a very highly valued thing at that point, because no one ever sees dirt.
Oh, okay.
Because it's just water everywhere.
I've never seen Waterworld.
Oh, my God. You got 3.5 hours of your life you don't want to get back?
So you're saying you didn't like Waterworld?
Well, I enjoyed it, but it was a notoriously over-budget movie. They decided to film everything literally on the water, building entire towns on water and stuff. And so, yeah, it's a pretty fascinating story about the production of that movie.
Japanese culture depicts mermaids differently from the beautiful creatures that we think of today. They believe mermaids were grotesque, horrific creatures that bring warfare to lands if their bodies are washed up on shore.
So there's nothing human-like. They're just basically like sea creatures, it sounds like. Very ugly.
Yeah, and if you consume the flesh of a mermaid, you would be granted immortality.
Oh, hey.
African myths also support the notion that mermaids are a harbinger of doom and bring bad omens. Mami Wata, or Mother of the Water, is a diabolical creature who lures people to their deaths.
Mami Wata?
Yeah, that's from the African culture. With only 5% of the oceans discovered, that means there's 95% of the big blue left unexplored. For many years, different types of marine animals existed, and we didn't know about them. So we really don't know what lurks at the bottom of the deep sea.
So, going back to the evolution of humans aspect, sometimes species can take different paths, and maybe for some reason, one of our branches of early humanoid or whatever, it doesn't seem totally impossible that they took to the ocean for whatever reason and evolved over hundreds of years into something else.
Well, we really don't know what lurks at the bottom of the sea, Dylan. Mermaids have slipped out of natural history and are now part of sailor lore or folklore. But there potentially could have been an Atlantis, an underwater city.
Well, there's some pretty fascinating evidence or potential evidence of when you have the shots of looks like underwater roads, or it looks like these let's just say non-natural creations in the ocean, on the ocean floor. Just I guess when you get straight lines and things like that, that's typically nature doesn't act like that, So yeah, there's some pretty interesting things about that.
I remember the movie Splash from the 1980s with Daryl Hannah and Tom Hanks.
Don't get her wet.
That was my first introduction to mermaid mythology.
Yeah, really.
Yeah. Before that, I don't recall knowing what mermaids were. But as a kid, I watched Splash and then, learned about mermaids.
And love.
And love. It's a pretty cheesy movie.
Oh, she gets wet, her little tail comes out. Happens to me all the time.
Does it? Your tail comes out?
Yup.
Yeah. You just have to drag it around.
Well, it's not the only thing I'm dragging around.
Okay.
I carry sacks of potatoes at all times as well.
I do find it interesting that all of these differing cultures from all over the world at different periods of time offer up similar stories of these merfolk.
Well, see, and that's not the first. Many cryptid stories are like that. And these are civilizations that didn't have any contact before the modern days, typically. So, either there's something about the human imagination that dreams up stuff that are similar no matter where the humans are, or it's based in some kind of fact or some, some old legend, right?
You think so?
Maybe.
Well, there's been quite a few, as I mentioned. Christopher Columbus reported back in 1493 as seeing mermaids.
Yeah, and then he raped and enslaved them.
Well, during Henry Hudson's second voyage on June 15th of 1608, members of his crew reported sighting a mermaid in the Arctic Ocean, either in the Norwegian or Barents Seas. So you have these reports from well-known explorers, sailors, pirates.
Now, you reckon they're drunk or they just they got scurvy from the vitamin deficiencies and they're hallucinating?
Possibly. 2 sightings were reported in Canada near Vancouver and Victoria. One is from sometime between 1870 and 1890, and the other was as, I guess, far back or not so far back as 1967.
As recently as 1967.
Yeah, Pennsylvania fishermen reported 5 sightings of a mermaid in the Susquehanna River near Marietta in June of 1881.
Wow.
Now we have river mermaids. In August of 2009, at least a dozen people reported seeing a mermaid leaping out of Haifa Bay waters and doing aerial tricks near the Israeli coastal town of, I will get this right, Kiryat Yam, and offered $1 million reward for proof of this mermaid's existence.
Okay.
Like if you could get a video, a picture.
Yeah, or just bring the mermaid by for an interview.
Club the mermaid and drag her in, that kind of thing.
We sent a bunch of baby seal hunters to go looking for the mermaids.
In February of 2012, there was some work being done on some reservoirs near Gokwe and Mutare in Zimbabwe. And this work stopped because workers saw mermaids that pestered them so much during this work that the workers finally were like, we can't take this anymore. This is an annoyance. We have to get away. These mermaids are causing us problems.
So
we can't do our job. We got to leave.
were they just asking a lot of questions like a little 5-year-old inquisitive kid?
I don't know what they might have been like, stealing their supplies.
Not a mermaid swimming up. It's like, hey, why you doing that?
Harassing them.
What is that? Why you got them pliers?
Flashing their mermaid tails.
What you gonna do with them pliers next?
We saw a Fiji mermaid not that long ago.
It was at the Gray Face Museum.
In Savannah, Georgia. Yeah. What'd you think about it? Would you own a Fiji mermaid? You're not hugely into the gaffs. Are you?
We have a job. I brought a jackalope to our relationship, bro.
Well, I mean, I know that, but I'm just saying you don't seem too keen on purchasing gaffs. You kind of want real oddities, right?
Well, I enjoy real oddities, and those are rather, fairly rare. Like 5-legged chicken or whatever. But I think the Fiji mermaid I would definitely own. But it would have to be one of the old ones. If someone made me one right now, I wouldn't be so. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It'd have to be a vintage Fiji mermaid from back in the day.
You want like an original Burnham mermaid?
Yeah. Well, the example they had there at the Gray.
A Carney Fiji mermaid?
Well, the example they had there at the Gray Face is what I would want.
Yeah.
Old, that very specific look, right?
A little dusty.
A little dusty.
A little crunchy.
Smells just a little bit. Like,
Dylan,
what is that smell, Black? That's my Fiji mermaid.
There are some scientific theories or inquiries about mermaids, as we mentioned before. So the topic of mermaids has arisen in several instances of the scientific community, including a biological assessment of the unlikelihood of the supposed evolutionary biology of the mermaid. 5 reasons listed why they could not fit into what we currently understand about evolution would include thermoregulation, which is the adaptations for regulating body heat, evolutionary mismatch, reproductive challenges, digestive differences between mammals and fish, along with a lack of physical evidence.
So basically, they're saying it's very unlikely that a creature could be along its evolution path and split, and one part stay mammal, and then the other part go off and be fishy. Is that what they're saying?
Seems to be the case.
Okay. That's my scientific assessment of what you just said.
So there was an oceanographer a while back named Carl Bantz, and he published a sort of tongue-in-cheek, satirical parody article in a magazine, like a scientific journal from the University of Washington. But it was mistaken as a true scientific expose, and people were sharing it and discussing it as though it were fact when it was a satire.
Okay, that's pretty funny. So they just missed the satirical element of it.
Yeah.
Like I've read this really interesting peer-reviewed article that has changed my mind completely about mermaids.
Pretty funny, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, well, that has been our batshit crazy episode on mermaids. Dylan, what are your thoughts? Do you have any questions?
Why do you think the idea of a mermaid fascinates people?
I think it's just the unknown because the ocean, as I've mentioned, is such a vast place, and we really have only been able to discover about 5% of the ocean.
Well, it's out there. How can't you see it?
That it plays on people's psyche, this notion that, well, it could exist. Maybe we don't want to feel alone on this planet. We cling to some of these ideas. And I think it's just fascinating and intriguing because you have so many reports, so many sightings over the years. And from, everybody from Blackbeard to like scientists who are exploring. I don't know. There's a lot of info there to totally discredit it.
So, if we evolved from apes, or, I know a lot of people believe different things, but let's say we did evolve from apes, humans, then why can't some ocean creature evolve into some more humanoid-like creature?
Well, exactly.
That can breathe and is built for the water and all. And the ocean is scary. Like you said, we've barely explored any of it, and it covers most of the planet. And it's just an environment. It's not made for humans.
Well, it's not a hospitable environment at all. Unless you have gills and can breathe underwater.
No, if you need oxygen to live, just if you breathe like that, then it's just like not for you. And me and you had a discussion about how ocean seems as foreign and deadly as space, as far as humans be existing there. And I think just the vastness of the ocean and everything, I think is always, and when the first sentient humans, self-aware humans made it to the coast or the water, it's just, it's kind of, to this day, it's mind-boggling to stand there and just see off into the horizon, and just you can feel the power of the ocean and nature. It's like you can go there to really get in tune with nature.
Well, what's so fascinating about a lot of these cryptids, creatures, like, for example, vampires, mermaids. I mean, you have those stories and they span multiple generations. They span continents.
Cultures,
these time periods. I mean, you have cultures that never interacted and didn't exist within 10,000 years of each other, yet they have similar stories.
Yeah, see that right there.
Creatures.
That's the part that gets me.
Get you, huh?
It gets me. I don't, unless they're just, like I said earlier, in my mush mouth way. And I must apologize to everyone. I'm a bit low energy. I've been through the ringer at work for the last couple of days. But there's something in the human brain that kind of views things a certain way and gets these ideas, or your human imagination might just kind of kick out similar things, no matter if you're connected or when you live, or there's some grain of truth somehow, some way to these stories. And I think with things like vampires, mermaids, and the way you're describing it, I don't know how else that would happen, that these different civilizations and people would have a similar experience to a degree.
Do you think our government knows mermaids exist and they're just keeping it from us?
They may, yeah. Ever heard that story about Eisenhower making a pact with the mermaids?
No.
That they can take some fat beach goers and probe them as long as they just stay there and don't, bring war against humankind.
Really?
Yep.
Okay.
That's right. That's why I don't go in the ocean.
It's like some Aquaman types of stuff.
Well, okay, look, I'm gonna stop you right there. 'Cause I can see where this is going. There is no David, or there is no. What's his first name?
Jason.
Jason. There's no Jason Momoa mermaid people out there that's gonna come swimming up to you. Okay.
So you're saying that if you believe in the existence of mermaids, which maybe you do, maybe you don't, that they're not going to be these attractive Jason Momoa types. So are you leaning toward they're going to be more fish-like creatures, maybe have scales, have the bluish skin tone?
What I'm saying is Jason Momoa is not going to come swimming up to you in the water as Aquaman, as a mermaid, or nothing. Okay? It's just not going to happen. So every time you take me to the beach, you stand on the beach and stare off into the distance with this look in your eye, and I know what you're waiting for.
Well, Dylan, there could be a doppelganger mermaid out there. I don't know. A merman.
Merman. She said Jason Momoa's in Maggie Valley, you son bitch, so don't you dare try to dash my dreams.
Exactly.
That's right.
Yeah.
And that is the town near us.
What would you do, Dylan? You're sitting out on the beach, right? You got your drink, your cigarette. You're just sitting and looking.
You know what I'm doing at the beach.
I know what you're doing. You're sitting and looking, and here comes a mermaid just splashing up.
A hot mermaid?
Any kind of mermaid.
Okay, so that's if they're super, like okay, let's go with the traditional torso up.
Well, that's
human.
what I'm asking. You're saying that they couldn't be like a Jason Momoa mermaid because that's not what the mermaids are going to look like? They look more fish-like? Like what do you think a mermaid would actually look like?
I think they would just be I don't think it would be like half human, half fish. I think it would be a creature of sorts that had maybe in a human.
Like the Lighthouse Mermaid with Robert Pattinson, William Dafoe.
Yeah.
Right?
Or the cold skin, the creatures in cold skin that were attacking them. Very
more seal-like.
Well, just more
with human features almost.
Almost like an amphibious element to them where they can come up onto shore, but they're at the same time they're very sea-like and very frog, whatever. Not nowhere close to human.
Like a creature from the Black Lagoon type of mermaid.
Yeah.
I mean, physically that makes more sense.
Right.
Because how is human skin going to
Well, that's the thing.
Be in salt water for extended periods of time?
From an evolutionary standpoint, that makes a lot more sense. You're not going to, but let's say, okay, let's just for the sake of argument say it's a super hot, half human, half fish mermaid.
Okay.
Your version comes up. Can you get over the fact? And let's just, without discussing it, let's just say you could enjoy yourself with this creature. Y'all could have fun. You really have a great connection.
She's got a good personality.
You can do all the things. There's nothing you can't get from this creature, right? It's going to be great if only you can get over the fact that they're half human and half fish. Would you do that? Could you see past it?
Well, logistically, do I have to build this person a fish tank in my house?
Oh my God! See, that's what I'm talking about.
Swimming.
So just instantly,
Are they going to have? Are they like the Little Mermaid? They get on land and have legs. Are they like the Daryl Hannah mermaid, or are we talking they're just full-time half fish?
So you're instantly thinking, how's this going to affect me in my life?
I can live on a boathouse
if I'm in a relationship
right?
with this creature. That's a very selfish way to view the world.
A boathouse.
Yeah, a boathouse. Why not? Just
Problem
get a boathouse.
solved.
You know what? I just see. I'm like you. I do think about logistics, and I'm just gonna have to tell my version is her. I'm gonna have to tell her that though you are really really attractive, and it's not gonna work. It's not you, it's me. I'm gonna have to give her that speech.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because I'm not trying to stay at the beach for a long time. There's too much of sand everywhere.
Get it in your crack.
Oh my God. Saltwater air corroding my vehicles and stuff. The undercarriage of my car's all rusted out. That's a lot.
Sunburns.
Sand fleas.
Sand fleas are vicious.
They're fucking scary, bro. I never knew how bad they were until we watched a show where people were attacked by sand fleas.
Well, if you recall, we were at Hilton Head.
Yes.
On vacation. I got bitten by a sand flea on my foot. And remember how big and swolled up it was?
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I remember.
It was bad.
It was bad. You
It
thought
was
you had to go to the hospital or
Well, I
something.
didn't know. I thought it was a spider bite at first. And it was quite painful, itchy. I can't imagine being covered in those bites.
No.
Miserable.
All right. So there's our mermaid tale.
Tales of the Mermaids.
And let's bring this on home.
Yeah, tune in next week. We'll have another batshit crazy episode for you. You never know what we may cover
It's true.
here on the show. If you have feedback, you can email us at batshitpod@gmail.com and follow us on Instagram at batshitcrazypodcast.